All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a big one. Charles Dickens' masterpiece, A Tale of Two Cities. We're going to break down this incredible story and get right to its core, all in about 5 minutes. Let's do it.
So let's just jump right in with it's got to be the most famous opening line in all of literature, right? And look, this isn't just Dickens showing off with a great hook. It's like the master key to the entire novel. It perfectly sets up this central theme of duality, this world of total opposites that we're about to dive into.
Okay, Section 1, A World of Opposites. So this whole epic story plays out across two very different cities, London and Paris, both of them right on the edge of a massive tipping point.
So you've got these two totally different worlds. On one side, there's London. It's a place of, relative order, commerce, things are kind of stable. But then you have Paris. And Paris is a city just simmering with chaos, ready to explode. It's being choked by the cruelty of the aristocracy, and you can just feel this rage about to boil over.
And all of this is set against the backdrop of the French Revolution. This is absolutely crucial. This story isn't just about a few people's personal lives. It's really about how their lives, their loves, their secrets, their destinies, are all just completely swept up and tossed around in this violent, chaotic storm of history.
All right, Section 2, 4 Lives in the Storm. So now it's time to meet the key players. Let's get into the 4 central characters whose lives get hopelessly and, tragically tangled up in all this chaos.
First up, we have Lucy Manette. If you want to understand her role, just think of her as the emotional anchor for the entire story. We're in a world that's literally tearing itself apart with hate and violence. And she represents compassion and love. That human connection that's trying to hold it all together. Next, let's talk about Charles Darnay. Now, he's a French aristocrat, which you'd think puts him on one side of this conflict. But he is absolutely horrified by the cruelty of his own family. He rejects his entire noble background. He's a man with a conscience, He's desperately trying to escape the sins of his ancestors. But as the novel shows us, history has a very, very long memory. And then there's Madame Defarge. Man, what a character. She is just chilling and completely unforgettable. So if Lucy is all about compassion, Madame Defarge is the exact opposite. She's the embodiment of this cold, relentless, revolutionary vengeance. And she's always knitting the names of her enemies into a list, just waiting for her moment.
And last, but definitely not least, we have Sidney Carton. He is truly one of literature's greatest tragic heroes. This guy is a brilliant lawyer, no doubt about it. But he's also deeply cynical, totally self-destructive, and he's convinced his life has been a complete waste. But, as we are about to find out, he's capable of so much more. Okay, on to Section 3, Revolution's Big Questions. So we've set the stage, we've met our main characters. Now let's dig into the really big, timeless ideas that Dickens is wrestling with in this story. So, one of the most important themes, maybe the most important, is this idea of being recalled to life. You see it again and again. Characters are basically resurrected from some kind of death. Sometimes it's a literal prison, like the Bastille, and sometimes it's more of an emotional or spiritual prison. This whole concept of redemption, of a second chance, that's really the moral heart of the entire novel. Dickens is also hitting us with a really powerful warning about the cycle of violence, and he lays it out so clearly. It starts with the oppression from the aristocracy. That cruelty plants the seeds of rage. Then that rage explodes into revolutionary vengeance. But here's the kicker. That vengeance becomes just as cruel, just as dehumanizing as the very thing it was fighting against. It's a vicious cycle. And, that leads right into this other stark warning. Dickens was clearly very, very suspicious of mob mentality and big, sweeping ideologies. He shows us the terrifying human cost when a noble idea, something like liberty, gets twisted and individual conscience just gets washed away by the bloodlust of the crowd. Okay, now we're moving on to the climax. And what a climax it is. This is the moment that really cemented this book's place in literary history. We're talking about one of the most powerful, emotional payoffs you will ever find in a story.
All right, so just a quick heads up here. If you haven't read the book and you don't want it spoiled, this is your chance to pause, because major spoilers are coming at you in 3, 2, 1.
So, the whole story, all the chaos, all the pain, all the different plot threads, it's all building to one single profound moment. And that is the transformation of Sidney Carton. It's his final redemptive act that gives his entire seemingly wasted life this incredible meaning that just echoes through the ages.
So as he goes to the guillotine, sacrificing himself to save the people he loves, Carton has this thought. It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. Wow. I mean, this is it. This is the ultimate expression of everything the novel is about. It's just unforgettable.
So let's step back a second. This book is over 160 years old. So why? Why does this story about revolution and sacrifice still feel so unbelievably powerful and, honestly, so relevant today?
Well, let's take a critical look. The novel's strengths are just undeniable, right? You've got that powerful ending, a really deep moral weight to it, and this incredible historical atmosphere. But we gotta be honest, it can be a tough read for modern audiences. There's a huge, complex cast of characters, some pretty heavy symbolism, and yeah, some of the middle sections can feel a little slow.
But even with those challenges, this book absolutely earns its stellar rating, a 4.5 out of 5. It really has cemented its status as an essential classic you've just got to read.
And I think this really gets to the heart of why it endures. A Tale of Two Cities isn't just a history lesson. It's a timeless meditation on what it means to be human. Dickens is arguing that, yeah, history is often shaped by these big, angry crowds and grand ideas. But real redemption, real change, that's found in the quiet, individual acts of love and sacrifice.
And that leaves us with a final question, one that feels just as urgent today as it did back in Dickens' time. When we look around at our own age, with all of its deep social and political divisions, you have to ask yourself, what, or maybe who, is truly worth sacrificing for?